Hi, I'm back for part three, and this one we're going to be talking about universal truths, personal truths, social truths, giving your problems to God, thinking patterns, repentance, seeking God, and creative outlets, which is the last and final chapter, and I hope this will finish now. I should almost make this a series. It's a three-part video, to be honest. So yeah, I'll start with like no one is perfect. Literally just come from that video in part two, if you care to look. But I saw a YouTube advert on universal truths, personal truths, and social truths, like instinctual truths, and it's worth touching on that. I feel like, because I think, and I'm going to mention how, I need to give myself a bit of a brain rest. I have been talking for like 30 straight minutes now. Personal truths are a personal biased belief based on one person's opinion. Universal truths are things like karma, God, things like that. So like, truths of the universe that no one can affect by one person's. But obviously there's like the butterfly effect, which I don't like to think about because that's a bit too complicated for me and out of my reach. That is actually terrifying to me, because for someone that has control issues, thinking about the butterfly effect is quite unsettling, but there we go. And also social truths and instinctual truths, like, like the need to be in a tribe, be social, defend, attack, things like that. And that's just helpful because as a human being, like, God made us with all of these things. I guess that's like a worldly way of looking at the world. So I don't think it's good to group God in that, but there is a lot of quotes in the Bible to say, like, don't look at the world, don't look at the waves in the world, like, look at God, and then that will bring you through. So yeah, to have what you want, I'm not going to like unpack that too much because there's not much to unpack for myself. Giving your problems and anxieties to God. There's literally a quote, something along the lines of, cast all your anxieties on God because he loves you. It's hard to fathom God and his ways because we can't understand that, really. But it definitely says in the Bible that you should cast all your anxieties on God, because I've spoken about this a little bit in the past, that it's so easy to imagine God as a human being. And the fact is, he doesn't function on that level. And I talk about levels of consciousness, and I have a video on levels of consciousness. But God is like the top level, of that. Because they say it's like the demonic realm, the earthly realm, the spiritual realm of like space and stuff, and then there's God. And God, it's kind of goes in a sort of a hierarchy level, I suppose, of like God is like the top level of all that, and he will like like function as like the top level. Like, he can basically defeat anything else if that's like what something he chooses to do. Another thing is, like, God doesn't comply to us, like we comply to God. Like, it's like, that's why we're like his humble servants, and he's not our humble servant, we're his humble servant. So it's always about remembering to keep things in perspective, and that is one thing that I am grateful for growing up in a religious house. I'm not saying I've like always been able to do this, but keeping things in perspective, of, again, it's humility, of like, God is above us all, and like, we can't be angry at God for like not doing something that we want, because at the end of the day he knows what's right for us and what's like wrong and what's good for us and what's bad. So there we go. And it's also about like not beating yourself up too hard for like mistakes and like life experiences that like you wouldn't have either wanted to go through, that caused you harm. And to know that like we are supposed to go through trials. Like, life is about suffering, life is about, the crucifixion and like overcoming stuff and rising and being resurrected in God. to create the person that we are, and that's just life, and that's okay. Trials make you, so, and I guess like, and I've literally not even thought about this, but I guess this can go with the level of control as well, which I'm almost at the end now, to be honest. I'm starting to bore myself, but control is another thing which I've honestly struggled with a lot, due to the feeling of being out of control in earlier life, probably. But this isn't about me, this is about general life stuff that is like, concepts rather than personal topics. But I guess, knowing that God is in control and he's like got this sorted, that could take a big burden off you as a human being, to know that like you haven't got to control the vast majority of life. You can control yourself, you can control your relationship with God, you can control a lot of things from that area, but you do not have to control other people. You cannot control other people, and you cannot control nature, you cannot control the world, you cannot control, you can have an impact on the world, but the fact is God always says like, ignore the world, like God and the Bible is like above all that stuff anyway, and to focus on that rather than the world. Because I think we live in such social media, we live in a covetous planet. Don't get me wrong, it's always good to influence others, and you can call that in the realms of the world, but God gives us everything, so whether you're going to influence the world or whether you're not going to influence the world, God has a plan anyway, and there we go. He will not void. Repentance, I always talk about this in all of my videos, but I've noticed this massively, that I've had quite a chip, honestly, I've had quite a chip on my shoulder for a long time, for various reasons. Understandably, I am trying to forgive myself for that. But repenting for sins against yourself and sins against others, eventually, whenever you do it, is good, and God will end up forgiving you. He always does, and that's the great thing about God. And then creative outlets. Oh, something else, but yeah, I'm literally done now. I'm going to go back to bed, I'm so tired, but there we go. I hope you enjoyed my videos. I put new videos out every week, but yeah, I'm trying to get more into biblical stuff. But yeah, thanks for listening, and goodbye.